My guest today is Rob Porter, founder of Let's Keep Rising. Rob is a guide, a storyteller, and a fellow traveler in the work of healing, curiosity, and becoming more wholehearted. Most men have learned to be hard on themselves. Few have learned to be kind. In this King's Row conversation, Rob shares his journey through father wounds and burnout and deep healing, and the surprising discovery that kindness is not weakness. It may be one of the strongest expressions of wholehearted masculinity that exists. If you've ever wondered how God meets us in our story and leads us toward freedom, this conversation is for you. Isn't it interesting that the deepest truths are often discovered on a journey? Every man is searching for something. A truer life, a deeper story, a closer walk with God, for a clearer sense of meaning and purpose. The King's Row is a gathering place for conversations that help us recover what matters most: our true identity, our amazing purpose, and the wild journey and life that Jesus is inviting us into. Welcome to the King's Row. Welcome, friends, to the King's Row. I'm Michael Thompson, and this is episode 2 with my friend, young King Rob Porter. And so glad to be able to have this conversation. If you haven't seen the first conversation with Rob, you'll want to do that, because we're going to pick up at a place that we just introduced the idea of kindness and how strong it is, and how on our masculine journeys we've both found the power of it and the importance of it in a variety of applications. That's what I wanted to say at the last episode, but I didn't. But I'm saying absolutely in a variety of applications. And you talked a little bit, Rob, about curiosity. And I want to just kind of move that over into the kindness category as well, and say we said it's good for everybody to be curious, to move more slowly, with an intentionality of what did you mean by that? Or tell me more. You seem really upset about that. I mean, I don't think curiosity is available when the dynamic feels personal. When it's personal, I can tend to react as opposed to what you're saying. And I know when I do one and not the other, because often the outcome is just it's night and day between reacting to somebody versus being curious and giving kindness a moment for clarification, better understanding. You know, I often say, Rob, it's learning how not to swing at the first pitch, and taking the time to, consider that before I swing, I really want to know what I'm swinging at. Mm-hmm. I really want to know what this other person means by that. And so I get pretty hung up on words because of that. I was on a call today with a friend, and he said something about me not trusting, these couple of people. And I said, wait a minute, I do trust them. I trust them a lot. And he said, oh, well, not trust then. He said the other word was, it was something like rely. Yeah, rely. And I said to my friend, I said, you got to be careful with your words. Those are very different words. He said, yeah, I should have thought that through some more, and I said, well, yeah, because all of a sudden I thought, you knew something that I didn't, about
mm,
these people that I don't trust, or somehow trust is fractured. But
mm,
so words do matter, and I think I want to just turn this into this particular word that we put onto the checkerboard of this conversation of about kindness, and just would love to just dialogue a bit about it, and more.
mm, mm,
Yeah, it's applications, right? We closed the last one with, how do you learn to do that? How do you get good or get better at being curious, being kind, right? I mean, it's Galatians 5. It's one of the fruits of the Spirit. It's which means it's a big deal if it's one of the things that God wants to produce in us, and
mm,
for others. It's a powerful, powerful um, thing that has an effect on people. It can be
mhm.
very right. A kind proverb says a kind word turns away wrath.
Yes.
Romans 2 says it's the kindness of God that leads to repentance. Right?
Mhm.
That's not the 2x4. That's not the belt. But it's a very, very. I think it's a very underestimated, an undervalued quality that I want us to talk
Mhm.
about for men,
Mm,
as a
mhm,
strength, as a powerful presence of a strength that a man
mm.
can have. So all that as intro to take it away, Rob. Tell us tell us some more about, how do we cultivate this? What's been your experience of learning how to become a kinder man?
Hmm. Well, I have a friend who's in the US. I have a number of friends in the US, which is um, which is just a real joy to my heart. And one of them, I have a weekly audio recording swap, and it's very cathartic. It's very, you're almost talking to yourself. You're giving
Right.
yourself an opportunity
Yeah.
to say what you're feeling.
Like a Marco Polo like exchange, like that?
Kind of, yeah. I
Like
mean,
that? Yeah.
it's just on like WhatsApp, It's just
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. Got you. I hear you. Yeah.
But yeah, that type of thing. And it just feels very kind to allow my heart room with a witness who's willing to listen,
Mm.
um, whatever it is, each week. And he said to me this morning that in his sphere of relationships, that I was the kindest person he knew. And that
Wow.
made me curious. We're speaking about curiosity and kindness here.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, that he would say that. And one thing that I just noted in my story last year, Michael, I experienced quite severe burnout at the beginning of last year, or the end of 24.
Mm.
And I won't go into all the details now, but it is quite significant. And I had to come out of my sweep or my work. I had to get a lawyer involved.
Oh, I wanted to
And
talk
what
about that. I was saving that for later, but this is so good that you're bringing it up now, because I remember talking to you about, this was a very constraining and a very challenging and
Mm,
a bit hurtful time.
it
Yeah.
was, and there's still residue. There's still
Mm.
ongoing residue that is being processed, if you like. There was a moment where I had to instigate a lawyer. Now, I've never dealt with a lawyer before, and man, that when you need somebody in your corner and you have a good recommendation, my experience was that it was like the brother heart of Jesus in my corner.
Mm. Mm.
Like, I suddenly felt like it's not all up to me. I
Yeah.
suddenly felt like I have an advocate who's of
Advocate. What
sound
a great word.
mind.
What a great word. What a great title. What a
Mm.
great position. An advocate in your corner. I love that.
And he was just, yes, I'm paying him for a service, but he was just very kind in his approach, safe, because I'm paying him, so he's in my corner, not theirs.
Right, right. Yeah.
And I got to relax a bit. And all that to say is, it felt very kind on my heart to have pursued that angle specifically. And you were
Mm.
saying earlier about the landscape of kindness is very wide and broad. And so here I am just explaining one that's quite broad and left field, and through a lawyer, for example,
An advocate. Yes,
an
that's a
advocate.
kindness. Yeah,
And
yeah.
then I think to the last year, Michael, where I haven't purposely sought income. That's a long time. That's a long time. And so I imagine guys that would listen to this, who are providers, who,
Yeah.
money gets very sticky for I'd say all men at some
Yeah.
point.
Our relationship with financial fuel is a big deal to
Right.
most every man. Yeah.
Yeah. We have bills to pay. We have
Mm.
mortgages. We have families or friends that things that you do with money. And when that decreases or disappears, it's a curious place, because what surfaces, how much reliance, how much fear might come up. What does that mean? I think you mentioned that maybe earlier in the first podcast, Michael. What does it mean if I feel this way or that way?
Mm.
And so this is where curiosity and kindness come in
Yeah.
as well,
Yeah.
because am I just what I earn? No, I'm not.
Mm-mm.
I'm much more than what monetary value could produce.
Yeah.
And there was just a kindness over this last year of, little pockets of work coming in occasionally. But not by, my sort of striving to just go out and get another job, because I was hurt. I was hurting a bit, and I needed space to recover. I needed to be kind enough to value myself enough to risk doing what I needed to do.
Yeah. You just shifted there. I want to point it out, and I want to keep talking about. You just shifted there from somebody being an advocate for you and the kindness that felt. And then you just used a phrase, a sentence about then being kind to myself.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a part of the landscape that is absolutely critical in this subject of kindness. Can you be kind to yourself? And why is that important, Rob? Why would that be worth talking about in a around a fire, or in a conversation, with like-hearted kings? Can
Yeah.
you receive kindness?
Mm-hmm.
Can you offer kindness, and especially to yourself? I believe there's a correlation in all of that, in how yeah how we treat ourselves. I mean, there's I don't need critics. At times I feel like I live with one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if it's not kind, I'm not sure it's me. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes complete sense. It's
Okay.
it's not
Why don't
hard
you
for men.
unpack that with me a little bit, because I
Oh,
think it
mate.
does make sense. It's a
Yes. Oh, it's
powerful
huge.
it's a
Yeah. I
powerful
mean,
realization.
it doesn't take much for men to be hard on themselves. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just the natural gear. It's up to me. I need to work it out.
Yeah.
The list goes on and on and on, and
Yeah.
it's unkind.
Unkindness. Yeah. Harsh.
It's not kind. And it's actually a sign of orphan living, because we're trying to carry
Yes.
the mantle of everything, right? And so we look at kindness, and that is an element, a core element of sonship.
Right.
Living in the love of a loving father who is kind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this last year, I said to this same friend that I do this audio exchange. If I can work 15, maximum 20 hours a week, that feels kind to me. I don't know what will come tomorrow or next month or whatever, but the value of being able to say something that feels honest
Hmm.
to to who you are and where you are is really important,
Yeah.
because otherwise, and we might get into this soon, Michael, but do pause me if you're going to bring this up
Okay.
shortly. It's very easy these days to live as a spectator of your life or through the story of other people.
Hmm.
All the information levels have just ramped up over the years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until where we
Mm-hmm.
are now, you can have information burnout, content burnout.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's too much for us to process,
Yeah.
but it's endless. And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah. You're speaking, I think, a bit. I'm asking about to the pace of life, the pace of information, the amount that is coming at you can be a very unkind pace and a very unkind amount of information, right, to process. It becomes right
Mm. Mm-hmm.
overwhelming when productivity and begins to really drive a man. Um, he can do it. Some can do it for. I'm not talking about for a season, for years and years,
Decades, a whole career.
and
Yeah.
and yet there will be sacrifices, probably in the area of relationships. Um, they won't know their dad like they could have, but they got the finest things, because he
Mm.
provided. But um, it's a very easy trap for a man to fall
Mm-hmm.
into.
Mm.
And
I
so
think
when
if
a
you
man,
have a way, yeah,
go
go
ahead,
ahead,
go ahead,
buddy.
go ahead. You go.
So, like, if you have an awareness of what's kind of going on, and you feel led, then, that's be blessed in doing that.
Hmm.
But if you're unaware at the level of sustained exhaustion that causes damage to men, with these levels of expected performance where you either meet that or you be replaced,
Yeah,
and burnout has become normal.
yeah,
Burnout is
mm,
normal, and there's not many places and spaces that know how to care for people well.
right.
So I think of people leaders, in my experience, not equipped enough and cause damage to many, in
Hmm.
fact.
Yeah,
And that's what I love about these spaces of kindness, if we will call them that, because they offer safety and they offer care. And I only know how to do that from having received care myself
right.
in particular places and with particular people, or through being damaged from people myself,
Mm.
and knowing that's not how I want to be treated.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The this landscape that we're walking and exploring, it makes me think of Eldridge's story, I think, in Waking the Dead, where he's on a solitude trip. Do you remember this story? He tells the story of being on a camping trip by himself with himself,
Mm.
and he's frustrated about something, either starting the fire or something, and he's just speaking harshly. You're such an idiot,
Mm.
And then he tells, I think, the story. He kind of, some minutes later, he moves into his tent and is trying to take a deep breath and say, "Okay, God, I'm here. I'm with you. What do you want to talk about?" And I think in the paragraphs it's kind of like, well, John, you were a little harsh there
Mm.
with yourself, being unkind. And so John goes with the Father kind of into what that prompts. And I think the next paragraph, he finds that younger part of him that says, well, he always does that to me. And John it was it was one of those moments like, oh my gosh, yeah, I
Mm.
I speak unkindly
Mm.
to myself about myself,
Mm.
and it's having an effect on a part of his soul that doesn't like it, but is of a younger, in John's story, is a younger part that really doesn't have the authority to take the bully out, take the bully and say stop, and God kind of orchestrates this thing for John. I remember that story, and I think it's part of this training. I would say, how do you agree? We all hear voices. We hear voices.
Do you mean self-talk and chatter?
Yes,
What do you? Yeah.
self-talk or
Okay.
temptation has a voice.
Yes. Yeah.
The critic that I talked about, it has a voice, a
Mm.
commentary. There's
Hmm.
there's an amazing amount of commenting and
Yes.
commentary, even judgments. Looking at people. You were talking about other men, right, brothers in the kingdom, and it's not a comparison, but per se, but it is something like that, to compare what he just said and what he sees, and comparing that to my life and say, I don't see that, but I like that. There's some evaluation of some. I think full blown comparison can be very, very, very harmful as well. To compare, my life and my story, my hurts, my where I'm at on my journey with other men. But there's something close to comparison that's actually healthy. It's an observation. It's evaluation. It's a way that we learn from somebody who's maybe got more miles on the odometer, and that does not guarantee, by the way, any wisdom at all. But at the same time, I like the idea that kindness, it's something that needs to be even observed within. Am I? This is so. Jesus says to love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think kindness is one of the best expressions of love. Acts of
Mm.
kindness,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're thoughtfully giving. You're a good gift giver, by the way. Uh, Thoughtfully giving a gift to someone. That's a very kind thing to do. A gift that expresses something that you uniquely know about them. That is very
Mm.
kind and very powerful,
Mm.
in all that it communicates without actually saying it.
Yes.
It's felt. It leaves kindness leaves an invitation to feel good.
Mm.
It's an invitation to feel good.
Mm.
To be honored is to feel good. To be seen
Mm-hmm.
is to feel good. To have an advocate is it makes you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very powerful idea. I'm going to write this book, I think, about kindness. I have been working on it. I'm
Oh,
very.
really?
That's why I'm absolutely
Yeah.
astonished and yet not surprised that it would be important in this to you and to this conversation, because Yeah, I think it's a quality that we as men of the kingdom, oh, how good it would be to say, man, that bunch of guys, kindest bunch of men I've ever been around.
Mm.
Wouldn't that be a medal of honor for you? Like your friend said, you're one of the kindest men he's ever known. What an honor.
Mm.
And I really believe this is an it's an expression that we as the apprentices of Christ, I think the chosen, I bring it up from time to time. The chosen has a very strong character playing Jesus, and the way they've written him, he is really kind.
Mm.
I think that's why people love that version.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I think it's why I do.
And to say as well, kindness does not mean avoiding saying what needs to be
He's
said or
right.
moving toward people in love of the the territories that need to be talked about. That's also just extremely kind as well. That nobody else might say that to that person,
Mm,
but you're kind enough to just draw alongside and be curious with that person about something, you know.
yes.
Michael, I'm curious in your season right now. I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
So, how do you observe kindness playing out in your current season, where you find yourself in your walk as a son, as a father, a
Mm,
husband, a disciple? Like, what does this territory, this landscape of kindness look and feel like for you?
yeah. I really what what you gave me a prompt that you may not have realized when you said playing out. I really like that phrase. How is it playing out? Um, and it's playing out slowly and yet with some great intention. I'm aware. I'm awake to what what does this sound like? What does this feel like? And being able to interact with my children, they're all 27, 30, 32. And yeah, how so there's two ways, right? You can initiate with kindness, but you also can respond with kindness. So those are those are kind of the relational dynamic, right? And I think letting it play out, how does it play out? Um, it it's a slower tempo. It's a slower tempo in conversations with friends, um, with seeing, monitoring, maybe discerning my thoughts and what I'm feeling. I think kindness runs at a slower tempo than other other ways in which to operate.
Mm-hmm.
Efficiency, performance, success, productivity. You mentioned productivity. Nothing wrong with being productive, but when that is the measure of your worth, um, it will be burnout. It will be um, yeah, unkind to know your story about your job and your work and what happened a little more than a year or so ago. Um, yeah, I feel like this was this was an ingredient that you were really having to look at because you had some options, right, to stay in the firm, You had some and that didn't feel good. There you had some options to leave, a couple options to leave, and they didn't all, feel good. So it can feel like there is, if it feels, Rob, I think if it feels like it's a lose, lose, and lose, um, and you can somehow buy time
Mm.
before decisions have to be made,
Mm-hmm.
I go for the time.
Mm.
I would let things play out. I would let God come. I would see what is he, if I don't have to decide that today or right now. And sometimes there are deadlines that require decisions being made, but I think letting some things play out has been one of the greater ways that not only can I then be kind, but also receive the kindness that God, I believe, intends and wants to bring to me, even in the middle of a difficulty or a challenge or
Mm-hmm.
a career, a job
Mm.
change. Um, I like that phrase a lot. How does it play out? I think that's a trick. That's part of the trick. You let it play out.
Mm-hmm.
If you can, this reminds me of Kipling, right? And his poem "If." If you can keep your head while everybody else is losing theirs, right? Just can you let these things? That
Mm.
poem is about letting things play out and not losing yourself in the middle of that.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like there's a end of a quote here from a man called Pierre Teilhard de Chardin.
Oh my,
Yeah,
that's a
quite the
name.
introduction.
What's
And
Pierre say?
so he was a French Jesuit priest and a
Hmm.
scientist and a philosopher in the late 1800s. And he says, "Give our Lord the benefit of believing that his hand is leading you and accept the anxiety of feeling yourself in suspense and incomplete."
Hmm. Yeah, that's that's the master's class. That's a very so to allow for it to unfold, to
Mm-hmm.
allow for it to unravel, to let it play out is what
Mm.
I didn't know I was stealing that from Pierre, but I will give him credit. Who am I to compare to a French Jesuit monk? But I think that is, and I want to bring up. I know we've got to land here in a minute, but I want to bring up a book that we read together that you gave me, and that we
Mm.
the Lion Tracker's Guide to Life.
Mm.
The Lion Tracker's Guide to Life. I don't know the author. I don't remember, but I love that little book that we
Mm-hmm.
explored, and I think it lends itself to this idea, this conversation of tracking God, the footprints. And when the trail goes cold, what do you do?
Mm.
How do you move um, patiently, but with intention?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that that was the
Mm.
sentiment in letting, um, yeah, letting this real African lion tracker,
Mm.
share these principles
Mm.
that had in their overarching essence was how kind it can be to let time and therefore God work for you,
Mm. Mm.
and
Mm.
and letting some
Yeah.
things play out more. I think that's a kinder way, has been a kinder way for me to operate, letting more things play out in their time as opposed to making things happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
I have done probably a flip of 70-30, 80-20 in that regard over the last 20 years.
Mm.
And not the sense that I have to lay down my cards every day and win the hand, but play the card that I need to play. Let's see what happens next. Moving slowly, curiously. I think is some things that I've been. I wish I had been. It would have helped my fatherhood so much, Rob. Had I been, it would have saved my girls numerous lectures. It would have, given them an advocate for them if I had slowed down and not approached their lives like I approached mine, of fixing problems, but rather being with, and seeing what's to come. Less.
There's an interesting, to add in there, Michael. I again, coming back to orphan and son, I take that example from last year in my story. The orphan might go to failure, might go to other things, and son goes to promotion. That God extracted me out of his kindness from a place that was doing me harm by 1,000 paper cuts over time.
Right. The job that you were in your career, right?
That's right. And so as a son, I journaled this. I sensed it was an actual promotion, not a tangible one. Hey, here's your bonus.
Here's your bonus check, right?
In your and there's a tension, there's still a tension.
Yeah.
But your word before, awareness. I can be aware of which hat I'm wearing, if you like, which identity I'm living from.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And appropriately so, if you need to. Yeah. That is just somebody who is paying grand attention to their lives. And often, I think we can sit with God and perceive it with him in a much slower, intentional way, curious again. I just think that he's done more, and I'm way more aware in the last couple decades than throughout my 20s, 30s, for sure. I am much more aware of what he's doing, how he's setting me up, how he's carrying me, and even how he's preparing me for deployment into maybe a difficult moment in a day, with even teammates. I have the best teammates, and yet we don't always play as well together as we could. And yet, yeah, Rob, I think that. Do you have the quote still? There was something about Pierre's quote. Do you have the quote one more time? I know we're coming close. Can we reiterate that? Could you read that one more time?
So give our Lord the benefit of believing that his hand is leading you, and accept the anxiety of feeling yourself in suspense and incomplete. And what that speaks to me, Michael, as well.
I was going to ask you, what do you love about that?
You're really good at this, though. So what I mean by the piece that you're really good at, I remember, so the podcast that I did with you, where I squeezed all your knowledge and life experience.
Took about 10 minutes. It was the shortest podcast.
But I remember there was a piece that I was just explaining, and a kind part of you was like, "Well, yeah, of course you don't know. You've never been here before." It was just a kind posture that is reassuring to say,
Yeah,
"Well, yeah, of course you would feel this.
it's okay. Yeah,
It's okay.
absolutely.
You're gonna be okay." And so, what I'm learning is this place of accepting and consenting and giving more permission. And what I
Consent is a
mean by
good
that,
word. Yeah, that's a good
consent
word.
was a key word for me last year, Michael,
Mm,
because um, it was a frontier I'd never been in before in my life.
mm,
And I was like, Lord, I confess, like, I don't know what to do here.
right.
I
Of
don't know
course.
what's next. I don't know what's coming. And this younger place in me is just trying to work it all out with some magic code or something, but it wasn't working. And so
Mhm.
I felt the Lord say to me at the end of last year, Rob, your consenting was really powerful because it moved something, it shifted some things. And, what I mean by consenting is, Lord, I don't know what to do here. I consent to you. I give you this place. Like,
Mhm.
I give you more access. I
The
give you
benefit
more
of the doubt,
permission.
right? The benefit
Yeah,
of the doubt.
exactly.
I believe.
Exactly. The
Mm,
benefit of believing that
mhm.
you're leading me, as anxious as I might feel
Yeah, yeah.
in that journey at times, right?
Amen. You know what the Trump verse in that is? The powerful card to play is after the baptism, when Jesus, Luke 3, Luke 4, when Jesus is led by the Spirit into the wilderness.
Hmm.
And could we be okay being led by the Spirit into places that we don't know how or what to do, and be kind about that? Of course, even if you were unbelievably validated, unbelievably initiated, there is no way, because validation and initiation, Rob, they come after we enter into those things that we don't know
Mm.
what to do or how to do them.
Mm. Yes. Yes. That's well said.
so so you cannot have one without the other, and
Yes.
and yet it's in us as men, right? What kind of man would you be if your strength was never tested?
Hmm. Hmm.
What kind of man would you be if your patience was never tested?
Mm.
And these are the things that I think that we can look for in the day to day, in the ongoing, and know that my trainer, my coach, my God is kind, right?
Mm.
He's not going to. This is come to me, all who are weary and heavy burden. I will never put anything ill fitting on you,
Mm.
but I will put some things on you that are going to require you
Yes.
to walk with me, to summon your strength. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Mm. Mm.
We'll be okay. I mean,
Mm.
it's very, very difficult, and it's very powerful to try to live in the way that Pierre,
Mm.
in the way
Hmm.
that of curiosity, in the way of kindness, and yet I've lived the other ways.
Yes.
Those are not less difficult. They have they have casualties amongst them, including me,
Yeah.
as I have lived in ways that I was trained to
Mm.
orphan, yeah, very wounded in certain places, and so absolutely, bro. I think that we will have to talk for some hours about this kindness and get the outline firmed up and
Mm.
get this book
Mm.
written, because I believe that it is one of the greatest things that you could offer the world, that you
Mm.
could offer yourself, that you could
Mm.
offer your family and those, and and I think it's one of the things that pushes back darkness.
Mm. Yeah.
When you
Yeah, I
when
agree.
when you give a cup of water, Jesus said, "If you give a cup of water in my name,"
Mm.
right? He's very much about kindness.
Mm.
It's part of the program,
Mm.
and I
Kindness it's everywhere. When you start to look, when you
there's
start to notice, even our contact, Michael, it's been a while since we've, really
too
connected.
many months. Yeah,
And I believe that sometimes out of God's kindness, because he wants you to learn something and not lean on somebody else sometimes,
hmm.
there's a
Yeah,
kindness in, okay, Rob, you're gonna, I'm gonna, take you and your family to New Zealand. It's the next piece of your initiation. You're not gonna have your close buddies to lean on as much as you did, but this is good for you,
yeah.
and I'm with you.
And it
And
could be, and it could be
yeah,
good for PJ and Abby and Chloe. And so, I mean, this is something that, yeah, you will look back on and have even greater, as Kierkegaard said, life has to be lived going forward, but is understood looking backward. This thing that
mm,
you're touching right now,
mm,
that you're mentioning, it will be more true in time.
mm,
It will be more clear in time.
mm,
You'll see,
mm,
and I believe you can say, and it was worth it. But
mm,
gosh, it's a hard thing to feel and
mm.
say
Yeah.
when you're in it
Yes.
sometimes. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, man. Oof, good stuff. What's on the horizon for you? Just as we wrap, you got anything new that you're stepping into? You've been creating some of the fireside conversations
Mm,
circles
mm,
there. I'm sure that's been yeah, you bringing your bag of questions and dropping them into the fire for these guys. That's
mm-hmm,
been, I'd love to see
mm-hmm.
that. I'd love to sit in that circle, see you do your
Well,
thing.
hey, buddy, we're just about 18 hours away. So anytime you want to hop over for a
Oh my
weekend.
gosh, what a trip. Yeah.
um, so I think with Let's Keep Rising, in my previous job, I got to experiment in a very unique way, which is an area of my true heart. And I developed these sort of programs that care for people. And one of them was called the Explorer Expedition. And it takes a group of people, almost like a small cohort of people. Um, and they could be from the technology arenas, they could be teachers, they could be ministry staff, groups of people on an internal inquiry for a few months. And then we go and explore externally on like a 3-day expedition.
Uh-huh.
And it was just stunning. The people that
Yeah.
came, all walks of life. And when you ask questions, you on the outside, so many people look like they're doing well
Right.
until you realize they're not from hearing about their story.
Hmm.
And to offer more spaces and places that care for people well, and that, I think it was Frederick Buechner who said, find a place where your deep heart's gladness meets a need of the world. And so I just don't know what's ahead, but I know that there's just one track here.
Hmm.
And I think kindness is a big piece of it.
Love it. Love that. I'm not surprised that's what you're doing. It's been a part of your pilgrimage into the wild, into the wilderness, literally hiking, exploring, um, yeah, testing your rain gear. I've seen you in it many times. And then taking people into those spaces for the internal. I like how you said that, and the external. That's yeah, it's 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 for people who would step into that. I believe the word it affords them a return, a dividend that you can't you couldn't predict, you couldn't even fully script, but yet you can lead them in a direction where you know those things are possible. Deeper discovery, deeper understanding, deeper deeper initiation, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've had folks who they went and bought their gear the week before you took them out. They have not done that before.
That's right.
Another mark of doing something new. So, well, I love you, man. I love having I see our clock, our tickers going on. I'm like, yeah, I'm talking to Rob. We're gonna go for another hour. I'm gonna go for another hour. You're just good for me, man. You're good for my heart.
Yeah,
You are
you too for
kind,
me, my friend.
and I enjoy this episode on the King's Row. So, any final ways that you could share? How can people find Rise? Is there any place to go to connect with some of the things that you're doing?
Yeah, sure. So at the moment, I have a website. So it's literally letskeeprising.com. And on there will be new sort of and upcoming offerings. We're going to be doing a retreat in New Zealand later this year as well. So there'll be a few events sort of popping up on there. So if anybody is interested, yeah, you can sign up and receive what we're up to and learn a bit
Yeah,
more. Yeah.
I love it. Say
Yeah.
it one more time. Letskeeprising.com.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Letskeeprising.com.
I like it. Yeah. It reminds me of the Robin Hood with Russell Crowe, right?
It's all in there, bro. It's
Rise and
all in
rise
there.
again until
Yeah.
lambs become lions.
Yeah.
I've loved it when God inspired you with it, and how you have put it on and worn it and continue to do so. I think it's a good fit, bro. Really good.
I mean, even in this conversation of, I was speaking about the audio exchange, being able to say things and realizing your truth, like who you are. And so even just as we've been speaking, I do see a big piece of kindness in Let's Keep Rising, because the alternative, what's the alternative, and so being together, learning, being initiated, rising together, continuing to pursue life and goodness and light and revealing each other's glory. It's good. It's good.
That's
right?
advocacy, right? That goes back to your, we all need a few more advocates in our corner who have a bit of this orientation that can continue to learn the craft of kindness and receiving it as well as offering it. So, well, thank you, Rob Porter. Love you, bro. And hello to PJ, and tell little Abigail I can't believe how big she's gotten. Those pictures you sent were fantastic. And so friends, thank you for being with us on the King's Row. I hope this has been a kind conversation and a provoking one in a kind way for you and your God journey. We'll see you next time on the King's Row. Thanks, Rob Porter.
Bless you.
Blessings. In the game of checkers, the King's Row refers to the farthest row on the game board from a player's starting position. When a player's man reaches the opponent's King's Row, that man may be crowned or kinged. The concept of King's Row is crucial in the strategy of the game. The more kings a player has, the greater the advantage he has over his adversary.